you guys so much. Welcome to the week 5 of the Asian Coaches Association of our Zoom calls, and we have 2 special guest speakers or speakers today. Before we get started on them, I just want to say thank you guys for jumping on. We do this every week, and we typically have 2 speakers on. And on behalf of Mike McPile, he's on here too. He's our president, and myself, Steve Yang. We want to thank you guys for jumping on and learning and growing with us. And Garrett, he's behind the scenes too. He does everything, and I want to thank you. We all appreciate the hard work that you do and that will do for us in the association. So thank you guys so much. If you guys can also put yourself on mute, probably be easier so that Garrett doesn't have to do it too. But if you guys can put yourself on mute, that'd be great. And we'll get rolling here. So we're going to start with Colleen Matsuhara. She's, for many of y'all who don't know her, I've had the privilege to know Colleen for many years now, and she's been a great mentor of mine and just a pioneer for the Asian community in the game of basketball, but just a good person. She's a charter member of the WBCA. Her 23 years of Division I head and assistant coaching career has included stops throughout the country. As an assistant coach at both UCLA and Texas, she was a member of the national championship teams. And at Texas in 1986, the Lady Longhorns were the very first NCAA women's team to post an undefeated season. And as head coach at UC Irvine in 1995, she led the Anteaters to the program's first and to date only NCAA postseason tournament berth. She was the Big West Coach of the Year that same season. And for USA Basketball, Matsuhara served in various capacities throughout a span for over 15 years. She was an assistant for the USA Pan America team in 1987 gold medalist. And as an administrator, she served as an assistant athletic director at UCLA, while at the same time serving as the secretariat of basketball competition for both men and women's basketball in 1984, the Olympic Games in LA. And while living in the entertainment world, the capital of the world, she also, cool thing about her, she worked in the film industry, and she coached and trained actress Sana Lathan and others while serving as the technical advisor coach for the feature film Love and Basketball. So if you guys seen that Love and Basketball, she had her hands involved. It was pretty cool for me to know that personally. She performed the same duties for Disney's Double Teamed and trained with 3 co-stars for the film Joanna Man. And so she's also been a color analyst and sideline reporter for UCLA Women's Basketball Radio Network. And for 2 WNBA seasons, she was an assistant coach for the LA Sparks. She coached 15 years as a head coach at West LA College before retiring back in July 2017. So without further ado, Colleen, we'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate everyone tuning in today from your busy pandemic schedules. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. I've been listening in on the phone calls for the past 3 weeks, and I've really enjoyed it. And so I'm going to tell my story today. The title I picked from my talk was Lessons from the Ride, because it's been a ride for me over the many years of my coaching. I've been all over the place. In fact, I had to write a little cheat card to remember where I've been. But basically that means, I guess, I'm old, but I'm still a hoopaholic. And I just want to tell you my story. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask at any time, or also at the end. I'm hoping that I don't talk on forever and there's no time for questions. So because I have been known to take a mic and run from it with it. So hopefully that's not going to happen today. I have my stopwatch going. So Steve, I'm going to try and stay timed with it. First of all, I want to take a time to wish a belated Happy Father's Day to all the fathers on the call. This past Sunday reminded me of my own dad. He's no longer here. He passed away in 2005, but he was my first hero. In fact, my mother was and still is my shero. My mother is 98 years old. But for me, my parents were very influential and mentors for me my whole life. In 1942, they were among 120,000 people of Japanese ancestry who were actually interned and confined to the internment camps one of the 10 camps located on the West Coast because they were of Japanese ancestry. Although of that 120,000, 66,000 were actually US citizens. And they, you know, growing up, they would tell us stories about having to go to this camp. And they said we could only take what we could in our suitcase. So in other words, 2 suitcases. Heck, when I travel like overnight to LA, I take 2 suitcases right there. So I can't even imagine having to put everything you own in 2 suitcases. And I remember I used to ask my dad, why did you guys go? He goes, we didn't have a choice. They knocked on our door and told us we had to go. I said, well, I want to go on. He said, you don't have that choice. We had to go. So my parents were relocated to Topaz, Utah. And my father ended up enlisting and joining in the US Army. So he became part of the Airborne 11 Squadron. He was assigned to the Military Intelligence Service. So he was an interpreter and he was sent to the Philippines. But also before, and my mother had to, of course, remain behind. And so she taught English in the camp for, I think she told me, a grand fee of $30 a month at that time. And just 2 weeks ago, she told me a story that, you know, being in that internment camp for over 3 years, that it was barbed wires, they had sentries guarding, and she said she remembers this little boy was playing catch, and the ball rolled near the fence or under the fence, and he tried to go fetch it, and the guards kept saying, no, don't go, but he didn't understand English, so they shot him, he died. So she said they always remember that story, and I said, gosh, that's scary, you know, here these are innocent people. But anyway, my father is the one who really got me hooked up on basketball. My dad's name was Yosh. He played both pre-war and post-war for a Sacramento area team called the Wakabas, or the Sacramento Stags. And he also coached the women's team called the Sacramento Saints, and they actually took road trips. They flew to Seattle, and I found this out because 2 of his players who live here in Sacramento brought me pictures of the team after he had passed away. And one of them told me, you know, your dad was a very good coach, but when he said jump, we said how high? And she said, we didn't mess around with him. If we didn't do something he wanted us to do, he would end up cussing us out. I said, my dad did? She said, yeah. I said, well, I guess then the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, because a little bit about myself, I speak 2 languages, English and profanity. Although my profanity skills have gone down since I retired from coaching. And I started playing when I was in the 3rd grade. My dad was very active in the Sacramento Community Church League. In fact, he was the commissioner at one time. So every Saturday we'd have games playing against teams from the other churches. These were mostly Japanese churches or Chinese churches. And I found out really early, like in 3rd grade, that if I wanted to play basketball and go to practice, it got me out of doing dishes at home. So that worked out to be quite a good deal for me. And my dad used to take me, he built a backboard in our backyard, and he used to tell me after dinner, let's go outside and shoot around. And so we go out there. You know, it's tough to play for a parent or practice with your parent coaching you. He would say, Colleen, I'm telling you, if you get down a jump shot, you're going to be unstoppable. He told me that every time. He said, just get that jump shot down. Well, I already thought I was unstoppable, but, you know, I didn't develop much of a jumper. So I think my game was being an assist person or playing defense. But on Sundays, we tried to enter into the Buddhist league. The Buddhists had their own league, and you had to be Buddhist to play in it. So my teammates and I decided, you know what, we want to play in this league because it was a travel league. So we infiltrated or joined one of the Buddhist churches. I won't name which one. We then voted ourselves as officers in the Young Buddhist Association of that church. So anytime there was a tournament coming up, we voted entry fees for ourselves. We entered the tournament, you know, under the auspices of that Buddhist church. Sooner or later, some of the elders in the church got a little upset, so we stopped playing for them, but that was a way to get more basketball in for me. And then my dad was also became a referee, which was very tough. Do you know how hard it is to have a parent be a referee when you're a coach? He would always tell me, Colleen, don't yell at the officials. I said, but they're not very good. He said, no, I'm telling you, they're doing the best job they can. And until he was in his 60s, my father also played in what we called the old man's league here in town. It was a rec league, and he just kept playing and playing until he decided it was time for him to retire. And I told him it was time when he said one day he wore sweatpants to the game, and he went behind the bleachers to change out of his sweatpants, and he said, you know, I noticed that there was a draft coming. He said, I looked down, I forgot to put my shorts on. I said, how embarrassing. So he put his sweatpants back on and had to play in the game. But anyway, that was my upbringing, and that's how I got hooked on basketball. He supported me playing Asian basketball, and in college I went to Sacramento City and Sacramento State, and he would just slip in and start watching me, and I tell him, I said, you know, you make me nervous. And he said, don't worry, but stop yelling at the officials. I said, well, I'll try not to, because we all know that officials do a great job, and they're either hated by half the gym or loved by half the gym. Depends on what team wins. A couple more things I just want to tell you about myself, for those of you who don't know me, but when I was little, I was very shy. I was an introvert. In fact, I almost flunked kindergarten. I heard the teacher tell my mom one day, maybe you better take her home and bring her back next year. As soon as I heard that, I stopped crying, because otherwise I'd cry every day and I'd make every other student in the class cry. But also some of my other things off the court is that I collect music, and I see several of you I've mixed CDs for. I actually have a little nickname. It's DJ Mozzie Motts, but don't repeat that. And I have R&B, gospel, reggae, smooth jazz. So I love mixing CDs for those of you who have received some. And also I'm a snacker, and today's snacks, chocolates or Dots pretzels. If you haven't had these already, go get some. You'll eat the whole bag. Isn't that right? Those of you who have that. Okay, so let me just, I'm going to be going all over the place. That's another reason why I chose Lessons from the Ride. You may feel like you're at Disneyland, and you might be on Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, because I'm going to be bouncing all over the place, but I've got some things I'd like to share with all of you about my journey as a coach, and especially as an Asian American coach. You know, right when I first started, there weren't a whole lot of us. And so I love seeing all of you now on this screen. So keep it up and keep coaching, keep working. First of all, number one, my first point, and by the way, it's like going to a clinic. Every time I went to a clinic, I always want to take away 1 point from whatever speaker. So if you could just take home 1 point, even if it's about the Dots pretzels, then I've done my job, okay? First of all is find someone to be your mentor. When I first started being a coach, my mentor or my hero was John Wooden, the UCLA coach. I grew up admiring his teams, watching him coach, and then I had an opportunity to work on his summer camps. It was called the John Wooden Billy Moore Camp. So I worked it, and you know, I went there expressly to hopefully get to know Billy Moore, who at that time was the Cal State Fullerton women's head coach. And she had great teams. I saw them in action, and I thought, man, I need to, you know, find out who this Billy Moore is. So I went to the camp, and my second point that I want to make right now is timing is everything. Everything. It's about being in the right place at the right time. So for me, I went to this camp. The guy in charge walked into this room with all the counselors, and he goes, okay, let's go around the room. I'm going to tell you what coach you're going to be assigned to be a counselor for. I was the third person sitting on the seat, and he said, Colleen, you're going to be with Coach Moore. Well, I thought it was a dream come true. That's exactly who I wanted to be the counselor for. So I spent the whole week being the counselor for Billy Moore. And after working with her for a week, I said, you know, I want to go watch her in practice and learn from her. So I drove over to Cal State Fullerton. I was walking down the halls, reading the bulletin board, and I run into Billy. She says, what are you doing here? I said, well, I think I want to maybe go to grad school here, and can I come watch practices? And she said, you know, I happen to have an assistant job open. Would you be interested? Duh. So of course, then I became her assistant coach. For 3 years, I was at Fullerton, learned so much from her about teaching methods, about philosophy. There is one drawback though. At the time, Billy, well, first of all, for practice, I've never seen another coach do this, but she wore kilts, you know, those hockey kilts. So when she would get mad and she would twirl around, her little pleats would just be twirling around. And I never understood that, but hey, everybody does their own thing. But for games, Billy had this thing, she wore a long skirt. And I'm talking a long skirt that went to the floor. So of course I had to find him. Now I'm 5'2". Do you think it's easy for me to go find a floor length skirt? So I remember getting some, and so every game I just dreaded getting into them because I felt like I should instead be going, stop in the name of love. You know, I felt like one of the Supremes performing with those long skirts. But needless to say, I learned so much from her, and then she became the UCLA coach. I went with her, and when we were at UCLA, we happened to win the national championship. At that time, it was AIAW. And we had people like Ann Myers, Denise Curry. So it was just a great time. And to be at UCLA where Coach Wooden was so successful was like a dream come true for me. Second of all, my other instance on being in the right place was that in '84, I was assistant athletic director at UCLA, and that was the Olympic year. And so I had a chance to also work for the Olympic Committee. So I became what was known as the Secretariat of Competition for Olympic basketball. So I helped the game crews, everything put on for every single Olympic game, men's and women's, that was at the Forum at the time. And talk about an experience. I mean, basketball is truly a universal language. You know, you saw teams from Uruguay, Egypt, and that was both USA women and men won the gold medal. And through Billy at Fullerton, who by the way was the first US Olympic women's coach for the Montreal Olympics in '76, I had a chance to meet and become friends with the late Pat Summitt, who was an incredible human being. Really miss her to this day. She was such an influence on the women's game. But in '84, she was the coach for the Olympic team, and Bobby Knight was the men's coach. And like I said, they both won gold right there in Los Angeles. My third example of being in the right place at the right time is that I worked for the LA Sparks as an assistant coach in '98 and '99. And in '99, I was in the office. It was a very small office. The phone was ringing. It was just a general phone. I walked by, picked it up. I said, LA Sparks. And on the other end of the line was Gina Prince Bythewood, who is the director and writer of Love and Basketball. And she said, hey, you know, I'm looking for someone to coach this actress that I'm thinking of casting in the film. So I said, well, I'm a coach. And so she took down my name, but I said, hey, next week in Florida, come to the WNBA pre-draft camp and maybe you'll see some players that you could cast as an actress. So the following week she shows up and we get a call on the walkie-talkie. Someone says, hey, there's a Gina Prince Bythewood who's here to watch players. So I happened to be right there again. I told the director, I said, let her in. She's looking to cast players for her movie. So I met her face to face, and long story short, when we got home, she hired me to coach basketball with Sanaa and Omar and two of the child actors. And it was probably one of the most fun and worthwhile experiences of my life, even though I wasn't really coaching someone, but I was coaching them how to act like a basketball player. And I think it helped me become a better coach because in the industry, you have to hit it right on. You know, they have to do many different shoots with the same scene. So it taught me about really paying attention to detail, about being in the right spot. So timing and spacing on running your offenses, that's really important. So, and plus I love being on the set. Every time I had a chance to, after we finished Sparks practice, I'd run over there, whether or not it was basketball or not. But I learned a lot there. Okay, so my third point is you have to build lasting relationships. Networking is so key for us in our profession. It's who you know, really. If you know a certain person, that person could be very influential in helping you land your next job. Let's say you're at a Division III school, you want to transition up to Division II or Division I. it's all who you know that can make that call for you or tell somebody about you. And I think also what I've enjoyed is that the relationships I met through coaching, like they're like my really good friends. So I could feel like I could bounce anything off of them. And then that actually led me to my job at UC Irvine. When I was at the University of Texas, the Southern Methodist University, the women's athletic director was Barbara Camp. She became the SWA at UC Irvine. So their job opened. So she called me up and she said, hey, Colleen, we've got a job here. Would you be interested? So I said, sure, I'll come interview. So I went to UC Irvine, walked around, and at that time, when she walked me around campus, I remember to this day saying this to her. I said, you know what? There's a lot of me here. At that time, Irvine had, I think it was 58% of the students were Asians. And since that time, it has gone down, I think, to 38%, but there's still a very high percentage. She said, you're right. She said, we have over 50% of our students Asians. And I said, oh, well, I feel right at home. And anyway, I took the job. The only thing is that what I learned was that a lot of the Asians were immigrants, children of immigrants. So of course they came to school to become doctors, lawyers, the professional rank lawyers. And so they tended to stay in their dorm rooms and study. They didn't come out and support the basketball team. So that was pretty tough. In fact, I think Irvine was probably the hardest job I've had in my coaching career. They had just transitioned to Division II. They had a Division II type of mentality to many of the staff. For instance, they would close the supply office at 5 o'clock. The window would come down. If we needed like paper or Xerox paper, that lady would close that window and go home. So it was very frustrating. My staff and I had to work very hard. We'd sweep the floor of the gym, and my first assistants there were Fred Williams, who is currently an assistant for the LA Sparks, and he's had a very long and storied career in the WNBA. And Annette Smith was my other assistant. Annette was an All-American at the University of Texas. The first day we were going to hold our practice, before I even got out of my office, they came running in, plopped on the couch, and they were like so upset. And I said, what's the matter? They go, Coach, we don't have very good players. I go, well, what do you mean? They said, they can't even make a layup. I guess they were warming up in the gym. I said, well, what are we supposed to do? We got to get out and recruit. So we worked hard, and 4 years later, after I took the job, we actually were fortunate enough. We won the Big West tournament and made it to the NCAA tournament. And that was about a year ahead of what I, for myself, had set as my goal is to get to the tournament in 5 years. And we were lucky, made it in 4. But during that time, I also had the opportunity, and if this isn't happening to you, then I really recommend it, that at that particular school, I developed a very close relationship with the men's coach, Rod Baker. To this day, we're very good friends. He currently is a college scout for the 76ers. But I've been fortunate that every place I've worked, I've had a great relationship with the men's coach. So if you want to develop and nurture those relationships, it helps both teams. Let's say you want to exchange practice times, they're more than happy to do that. I've learned a lot from, I thought I silenced my phone. Let me do that right now. Sorry about that, folks. Anyway, when we made the tournament, I even asked Rod Baker, hey, Rod, do you want to go with us on our travel party? He said, sure. So he came along with us. Now, how many of your counterparts are going to want to go with your team to the NCAAs? And he did that, and it's been great. And when my last stop, West LA, the coach there was great. And so I don't think I've been fortunate. I never had a place where I work where we were always at odds or button heads with the men's coach. So that's a very important thing to have in your own position. Then secondly, I want to refer back to Coach Jerome Tang, last week's speaker, when he said that one of the requirements or the attributes they look for is to recruit players that smile. And I said, hey, I've never heard that before, but that's a great concept. I mean, do you want to go look at a player who maybe never shows joy when they're playing, or always acts like they're mad, or they've got an issue? Well, when we recruited, there's things that we want to look for. First of all, we want to look for players that showed respect. Respect for not only themselves as people, persons, but respect for their teammates, respect for the coaches, respect for the fans that came to watch them play. And second of all, body language. I'm a big believer in body language. I like to watch people as they play. And so when I used to go recruiting, I would sit across the court from the bench. So I could watch their body language either when they were in the game, when they came out of the game. When I was at the University of Nebraska, on New Year's Eve, I flew from Lincoln, Nebraska to Chicago, Illinois. Snow and ice all over the place. I went to the high school. I couldn't get in the school. I finally had to call the coach, and the coach says, look for the red door. Well, I didn't know that. So I finally found the red door, got in the gym to watch this certain player. She got into foul trouble. I sat across the bench. She got into foul trouble. The coach took her out. She came right out of the game, didn't even, high five any of her teammates. She walked off the court, went right to the concession stand that was on the baseline by the bench, bought herself a hot dog, brought the hot dog back, sat down and started eating the hot dog. This is a true story. Well, as soon as I saw that, guess what? I folded up my notebook. I went to my rental car, drove to the airport, changed my flight. I went home. I said, that person had no respect for the game, her teammates, or her coach. So needless to say, that was the last she heard of us. I don't know if she would have come to Nebraska or not, but sure enough, that was not going to happen. The other instance we had is when I was at Irvine, we brought a player, took her out to eat, and it was time for dessert. The waiter came around and she goes, I'll have dessert. And he said, what would you like? She said, I'll have the carrot cake. He said, okay, a slice of carrot cake. She said, no, I want the whole cake. He says, you want the whole cake? She goes, yeah, bring me the whole cake. And she didn't even say, please bring me. So I said, okay, that was it for me. I said, okay, stop. First of all, you're not getting the whole cake. You want a slice? You could have a slice. The next day I called her into my office. I said, this is not going to work. I said, never has anybody ordered the whole cake. I don't even order the whole cake. So it's not going to be a good fit for us. So we sent her home early from her trip. So like I said, everyone, you've got to set your values about what you're going to value with your team and how you want your team to perform and how you want the players to react to different teammates. You want them to be cohesive. And then when I went to the University of Nebraska, for me, I'm a Californian, native born, raised. That was a complete culture shock for me. First of all, the weather. I've never been in the snow, ice, the wind. It was -40 when the wind blew across that snow, ice. And there was a lack of diversity on the team. There was not one minority on the team when I first got there, not one. And that's when I reconnected with Lincoln High School in East St. Louis, Illinois, because the previous year I had been at UCLA, and I was fortunate enough, I went there and recruited Jackie Joyner, who to this day, I'll tell you, Jackie is one of the finest, nicest, happiest person you could ever meet. Her smile will light up a room, and I considered it a privilege and an honor to have known and recruited Jackie. But her high school coach called us up, this is when I was at UCLA, and said, I have 5 Division I players here. I'd like you to come out and take a look. So we hang up the phone and we said, yeah, right, 5 Division I players. Let's hope he has one. So he kept bugging us. So I finally took a flight out there. And East St. Louis is across the river from St. Louis. It is probably one of the lowest income places, depressed cities in the country. I walk in this gym and the JVs were playing, and then the varsity starts to warm up. Let me tell you, the cheerleaders, I saw the cheerleaders before the team came out. There were more athletic talent on the cheerleading team alone. So I said, well, I think I'm in for a treat. Sure enough, the East St. Louis Lincoln Tigerettes came out and they put on a show. I think they must have beat this team by 70 points. I went back to my hotel room. I called up Billy Moore. I said, Billy, these people can play. And Jackie was on that team. Well, after that, I unfortunately was not able to actually coach Jackie at UCLA because I got the job at Nebraska. So I went back there and I recruited 3 players off the team that I had seen the year before: Deborah Powell, Crystal Coleman, Regina Searcy. And Deborah is now a principal in Alabama, and she was formerly the mayor of East St. Louis. So I said, boy, I knew you were a politician. You could really talk it up. But I'm proud of where she came. The other one was Crystal Coleman, who had a very lengthy and successful professional career in Holland. And I, at Nebraska, then I also went back to California and recruited 2 athletes from Joyner High School, Terry Perriott and Kathy Owens. So anyway, that was how we tried to start to build that program, trying to bring some diversity also. And it was really hard for the players on my team. I remember we had a Caucasian or a white player who was a senior, and she had little problems adjusting to the African-American players we had. In fact, they got into a little squabble. I guess she called one of them, well, who do you think you are, dark and lovely? You know, which is a hair product. It's in a pink bottle. So that player came running to me, was very offended. So we had to have a sit-down team meeting and said, look, you need to all get along and learn about each other's differences and similarities. And that seemed to get people going in the right direction. We took them out to a tournament at Cal Berkeley, and I'll never forget one of the Nebraska-born players. We took them to eat at a fast food Mexican restaurant, and she went up to the counter and she said, I'd like to order a quesadilla. We go, a quesadilla? What are you talking about? She meant a quesadilla. And then the other player said, well, I want to order a bagel. We go, it's called a bagel. So it was a real eye-opener for me, also living in that part of the country. I think the first snow, I didn't have a snow shovel. I rented a townhouse, so I got my garden hose and I turned on the water and tried to, you know, melt the snow away. And when I went to work and told people that, they said, boy, you have a lot to learn living here. I said, nobody told me that it got this cold. But anyway, talking about diversity, you know, I have run into instances of some racial incidences. When I was at an assistant coach at a BCS school, we were in a coaches meeting and one of our players was having problems with math. And I'll never forget this. The head coach said to, hey, Coach Matsu, why don't you help her? You're good at math. I was seething. I looked at her and I was about to cuss her out. And instead I said, no, just keep quiet. So I said, I'm sorry, but I can't even balance my checkbook. No, I'm not going to be able to help her with math. And the other time I remember something happening was I was at the University of Texas, assistant coach. I sat with the other coaches on the bench, but yet some people thought I was a team masseuse. And I said, do they not see the roster that we give out, that I'm actually a coach? And I felt like when I was in places like Lincoln, Nebraska, when I go shopping at the Target, I felt like people wanted to sort of look and see what I was buying, you know, like there wasn't a whole lot of Asian food to buy in Lincoln, Nebraska, I'll tell you that. And the restaurants that did serve those type of food weren't as tasty as they were out here in the West Coast. But those are some things that happened to me. I'm sure we all have instances like that. The fourth point I want to make is to be loyal. Be loyal to your head coach, or if you're a head coach, be loyal to your administrators, be loyal to your program. If you're an assistant coach, you have to be loyal to your head coach. You don't talk behind their back. You know, you need to support them. If you have a disagreement, do it in private. And, you know, that's an important lesson that I learned, and I hope I'll have time to tell you. Well, let me just tell it to you now. When I worked with Billy Moore, she was really animated. Now, by this time, she had transitioned out of those damn long skirts. So she was, at that time, wearing those three-piece outfits, you know, pants, vest, jacket. We went to play the University of Maryland. At that time, it was the old Cole Fieldhouse. And it was a doubleheader. The men were going to play Duke. So as our game was progressing, we started up winning. And then in the second half, they started coming back. But the problem was Billy would be jumping up and trying to, you know, be very animated. And I noticed that she started having, there was a hole in her pants. And a guy, one of the hecklers behind me would start saying things like, hey coach, you got a hole in your pants. And it continued to proceed downward. It got to be pretty bad. And Billy was real superstitious, and there was always a seat between the two of us, and I kept trying to like reach over and tap her, but I would start laughing. And so finally I started writing her a note saying, Billy, you have torn your pants. And the guy behind me said something really crude, so that did it. I said, hey Billy, he's right, you know. She goes, what are you talking about? I said, you ripped your pants. And she would be so focused coaching. She goes, well, there's not a whole lot I could do about it. So we finished the game, we lost. She's pissed. The locker room scene was something, it's almost like it happened yesterday. They put us in this small room that had desks. I don't know why. So I got the stats and I walk in and the entrance was in the back. So Billy is at the front of the team, really reaming them out. All eyes are looking at her. But the problem was she had taken her pants off to have our trainer try and repair. So here's the great Billy Moore standing there, reaming the players out in her underwear. I mean, she has her long sleeve shirt, vest, and jacket on. And I took one look at that, and her platform shoes at the time. And I took one look at that. I thought I was going to just bust a gut. So I told the SID, I said, I'll be right back. I barely could make it because I was in such pain. I barely made it out the locker room door. As soon as I closed it, I just fell out. I said, I cannot believe what I'm saying. And I've seen many of those players at reunions that we've had at UCLA, and I asked them about that. Do you remember the time when Billy ripped her pants? They said, yeah. I said, well, how could you not have laughed? You all had such straight faces. They said, Coach, we couldn't. It was Billy, and she was really pissed at us. I said, I had to leave because I couldn't hold in my laughter anymore. And that's just a long way of telling you, always have your head coach's back, because I sure had to then. I not only had her back, I had her backside too, because it was truly ripped out. You could see her underwear up in that. And then my fifth point is to be passionate about the game we all love. Okay, respect it, honor it. And the bottom line is, though, you have to have fun. If you don't have fun, then maybe you should do something else, okay? And I want to read to you, just recently, in April, I got a letter from one of my assistant coaches at the University of Nebraska, Kelly Hill. And I thought, wonder what is in this letter. Is she like cussing me out or what? But it was a very touching letter, and I just want to read you a couple quotes, because as coaches, you impact young people's lives, you empower them, you educate them, and hopefully you really do something nice that they'll remember. And so Kelly said, though we don't see one another, I want you to know you taught me a lot about just being you and not changing for others. You found your, quote, lane and stayed in it for better or worse. You were always made for coaching, and I thank you for asking me to join the journey almost 40 years ago. Know that you impacted many lives in so many ways, especially mine. Thanks for believing in me. You know, that means the world to me as a coach. And I hope all of you have experienced that or will do it when you coach your players and coach them up and help them become the people that they want to be or hope to be. And maybe they'll emulate you and become a coach too. And I want to tell you about I heard a speaker. So let me show you something. See this orange? When you squeeze this orange, what comes out of it? Orange juice, right? It doesn't matter what tool you use to squeeze on it, what time you squeeze on it, or what circumstances you squeeze on it. It still comes out orange juice. So my challenge to you is orange juice, what is in your orange juice? Is it joy? Is it passion? Is it grind? Are you gonna go out there and outwork everyone? So hopefully you're gonna have a nice orange. When you squeeze it, and you don't want it to be squeezed and out comes anger, resentment, disrespect. So work on that, what's inside your orange, okay? And then I want to end with a quote by Maya Angelou. And she said, success is liking yourself, liking what you do, and liking how you do it. So do those things and enjoy your own ride. And I want to wish all of you the best of luck. And Garrett, if you could just show, I have my contact information. Garrett, can you flash it up there? Okay, that's my email, and I answer emails. I check it throughout the day. And then also, there's a book list for those of you who have time during your shelter in or summer reading. Garrett, can you show the book list? Come on, Garrett.
And
Garrett?
we'll also, and Colleen, we'll also have this for
Oh,
those
okay.
that want to reach out. If those are
Okay.
listeners
Well,
out there that wants to reach out, we'll get it to them.
okay, well, one of the books on there is the one I sort of stole my title of the talk is called The Ride of a Lifetime by Robert Iger. And it's lessons learned from 15 years as CEO of the Walt Disney Company. Now that's a book I have not read yet, but it talks about optimism, courage, fairness, decisiveness, and ideas and values that are embraced. So I think it'd be a good resource. I'm gonna read it by the end of summer. And the other one, I have about 7 books on there, but the other one is called Help the Helper, Building a Culture of Extreme Teamwork. Thank you, Matthew. And it's building a culture of extreme teamwork. So if you wanna, build a culture or improve your culture of teamwork, then I encourage you to get that book. And another book is Simon Sinek, Start With Why, How Great Leaders Inspire Everyone to Take Action. So answer your question, why are you here? How are you going to get there? And what do you do to achieve your why? So anyway, I hope I've been able to give you at least one point. If there's any questions, I
Yeah,
thank you for all of your time.
Colleen, thank you so much. And then if you guys have any questions, feel free to pop it in the chat. I actually have a question for you. You're a pioneer for a lot of us, and those who don't know, now they know. And you've been at all levels of basketball and done a lot. I know if I was in your shoes, which I never can and will be, but if I was in your shoes, I think I've lived it. This is great to have that career that you've had. Um, being the minority, an Asian minority, especially back in your coaching days, how did you overcome some of these discrimination that was you're facing and seeing? Was there someone you always? I know you said John Wooden's your mentor, but is there someone you kind of talked to on the daily, or just had someone that kind of kept you going, supported you, whether it's mom, dad, or friends, or was it something that you did habitually so that it can keep you rolling and stay focused and grounded to what you believed in?
I think for me, I sort of just ignored them, the discrimination I faced, because I couldn't really do much about it. There weren't a whole lot of other people that looked like me in the profession, so they wouldn't quite understand. I think I just sort of kept it inside of me, and that was a challenge to me to just say to myself, I'll show you, and just things like that. But I think as Asian coaches that we have a hurdle that, think about this. How many athletic directors do you think call up people and say, can you recommend an Asian coach for me to hire? I can name on one finger the instance I could probably think about for that. Yes, I think it's great that people want to hire diverse staffs, but sometimes I felt during my career that we were the, quote, invisible category. We didn't fall into any category to be considered as a diverse coach. So I think we have to really get out there, expose what we do in a positive way, and just be seen for being a good coach and a good person.
What advice can you give to someone? Because I know recruiting was a little bit different,
Mm-hmm.
in the 80s, 90s and all that. We're talking 2020, our recruitment, social media and all that. What other tidbits can you give, or advice you can give to those of us that maybe we can use, that y'all used back then? Because I like using something special. I like whenever I recruit, I like to do something that everybody's not doing. And those things are what people did back in the 80s.
Right.
So is there any advice other than the ones that you gave us already?
Well, one thing I think is very important is to be the ability to remember names. Not only the name of the recruit, of course, but their coach's name, their parents' names, and something personal about them. I mean, I can tell you that years later, when I would run into a former player, I would say, "Hey, how's your brother so-and-so doing?" And they would say, "Gosh, I can't remember. I can't believe you can remember his name, or what he was interested in doing, or what their pet dog's name was." And I think that really helps you connect better with a recruit or a student athlete. Is that something personal that means a lot to them? That or somebody's parent, they lost a parent, and I'd say, well, how's your mother doing? And I think that people appreciate you for being the person that you are, and that just shows that you're being genuine.
Hey, Coach, this is Coach
Hey.
from K-State. Hey, awesome job today. I had actually two quick questions. Just meeting you on the road and seeing your passion to help other coaches get jobs. Coach, I've never seen a person so passionate about helping others in this field. Where would you say, if it was one source, where does that passion and that urgency to make a call or put your name out for someone, where does that come from?
I think that's me knowing the other person, for instance, meeting and knowing you, Ebony, and just know what you're all about, that you're genuine to the core, you care about your student athletes, you're enthusiastic. A quick story about how I actually met Ebony. She was working for a recruiting company or something at the Final Four in the exhibit hall. Every time I walked by her, now I didn't know her, she would say, "Hey, loving basketball." And it's finally gotten to get a little irritating to me. Finally, I said, "Who are you? And you got good eyes." So we started chatting, and then we just kept in touch that way. And then as our careers diverged different paths, we kept meeting up again or talking. And I just think that I have to feel that what's inside of you maybe matches my values or my ideas the same way.
Thanks, Coach. Also, this is a random question, but when you were reaching for your phone, what you always sending gear and stuff? What shirt do you have on?
Oh, today's T-shirt says, "Be great every day."
I didn't see it. Okay.
So, by the way, this is one of my former student athletes who was an honorable mention All-American at UC Irvine. Her name is Alami Bashir. She has a company called Be Great Every Day. And they have merchandise like this, and she's a transformational life coach. So if any of you want to talk to her or have her talk to your athletes or about team culture, just go to begreateveryday.com. And she's got hoodies. I mean, this is a commercial. I guess it's turning into a free commercial. And but she's an awesome person, and she even offers first-time 20-minute free consultations. So right now her focus is on mental health, building team cultures, one-on-one coaching, but I also have seen her in action working with teams, building teams, just trying to set the culture in a positive and high bar. Thanks for asking that, Ebony.
Coach, is there going to be a Love and Basketball Part 2?
No.
I love the movie. I'm not gonna lie, I loved it. I think a lot of us might agree, but it was a really good movie.
This was a 20th anniversary, so they did a lot of specials on that. And for 20 years, I've been after the director. Gina, do you know how many people want a Love and Basketball Part 2? Well, it finally occurred to me. I learned through listening to some of the panels and podcasts. She said, "No, I'll never do another sports film. That was my one film." And she said the reason is because it became a timeless classic. So if you do a part 2, it sort of dilutes the timeless classic that it had become. And then I said, oh, it took me 20 years to come to that realization. But So that's the answer to your question. And as a side note to that, where life imitates art or art imitates life, the young man that played the young Omar in the film, Glendon Chapman, he actually came to West LA, was a student in my weight training class. So we reconnected that way. So one day when he came to class, I go, Glendon, come with me. Went to my office. We took a picture in front of the poster. So it was really cool, that it was just a cycle that came about.
That's awesome. If you weren't coaching basketball, what would you be doing?
I'd be trying to direct a movie. I want to write and direct a screenplay now.
Who would play you?
I don't know. I'd have to ask the casting director. Hopefully somebody
Awesome.
better looking, easier on the eyes.
Are there any other questions? Any other questions for a coach? Coach, I mean, I would say you've got a great resume, and those who don't know, this is an honor and privilege. I mean, just to hear your story, but just to know more about you and the places you've been, it's amazing. Let me see if anybody else, Coach McPowell, you have a question?
Yeah, Coach Matsuhara, obviously you're extremely passionate about what you do, and then you said a lot of it has to do with timing. But like, if you were to just talk about like the coaching aspect and like who you are as a coach, like what separated you from your competitors to give you this crazy, well-rounded career that you had?
Well, I think a lot of it was luck, Mike.
It
It's
can't
like
just be luck, can it?
I mean, being in the right place at the right time, but also I think I had some great assistants. And, for those of you head coaches, when I was a head coach, I always wanted to have assistants who were loyal, passionate, on time, punctual, and would want to be involved like on the practice court. I mean, I've seen people that I call human cones. They're at practice, but they're just standing there. Well, I could go put a cone and that could be them. So if you're an assistant coach, don't be a cone, be active, get out there on the court, be animated, be enthusiastic so your players can mirror what you do. And then just outwork everyone. When I was at Notre Dame for 1 year. And that's one of my biggest regrets in my coaching career, was leaving after 1 year. I left because the winter was tough and I had a chance to go back to California and be at Long Beach State, but neither here nor there. But when you're an assistant coach, you want to just show your coach that you're willing to work long hours, put in the time. When I was at Notre Dame, my colleague at the time, David Glass, he and I would stay like till 8 or 9 in the evening watching film, videos of players, or just talking X's and O's. And, we spent many a meal afterwards going to Bob Evans to go eat. And I think it just, you got to put the time in.
Coach, you mentioned luck. I mean, you create your own luck too.
That's true.
Just putting yourself in a situation like that.
It's like at the end of the season, in the postseason, when people say, your team is in the playoffs, would you rather be good or would you rather be lucky? Guess what? I'd rather be lucky.
Absolutely. Coach Harada's got a question. Coach, would you like to unmute yourself and ask a question?
I thought you were going to ask.
You'll probably do it better than I do.
Hey, Colleen.
Hi, Jeff.
Just a quick question. So, I mean, obviously you've been coaching for a long time, and I know you're still, involved as of today, but what are the big differences and how have you adapted, the coaching style, I guess, and connecting with this new generation of the millennials and the Z, just these younger kids? How do you, because I'm old school, I assume, like kind of like you, and it's just you can't reach these kids the same way.
Well, I think even like social media, like in timeouts, give yourself a 30-second soundbite, because after that, they're not going to listen. They're thinking about something else. They're on Instagram and all that other stuff. So, really have a concise message at timeouts. And then, when I was coaching, like I mentioned before, I collect a lot of music. So, there'd be a song come on the radio or something. I knew the song and they go, Coach, how do you know that song? Or, how do you know about that song? I said, I have the CD, as a matter of fact. So I think it's just relatability. And again, just making a connection personally with something that's going on in their life. At the community college level where I ended my career, that was really, really tough to coach the junior college student athlete. And those of you who are at that level, man, kudos to you, because they're there for two reasons. Number one, they either have an academic deficiency, or number two, they're not that good athletically. And they have a lot of things going on. You know, they may not have food at home. They may not have parental support. They may not have transportation. So they have a lot of things off the court that really take up a lot of your time and energy. And you need to show them that you care and you're concerned about their welfare. I had a young lady who was on my team, and for some reason her grandmother locked her out of the house. So she ended up staying in her car. So I found out about this. So I'd go early to school, unlock the locker room so she could go in there and take a shower. And we, in my later years of coaching there, we used to keep like bread and peanut butter and jelly so the players could come in and eat something besides a bag of Doritos or Cheetos from the vending machine before we went to practice, like apples, oranges, water. And so it is hard these days, Jeff. So I think I retired at the right time. But I still am a gym rat, so don't be surprised if I show up at your gym.
Oh, I'm waiting for you. I'm waiting for that.
I'll be there. I tried to make it to one of your games when you came to Davis, but I don't know what I was doing. But I'll try and do it this year.
That one. That was a great game.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You know, Coach, Jeff, thanks for that question. You know, you said you're one of the biggest gym rats I know, and that in a good way. And I don't see that often. And I think a lot of us can see and agree. But why do you think is that? I mean, why do you think we don't have as many gym rats, those who want to stay from sunrise to sunset, not just in the game watching games, but in the gym watching games, but in the gym working too?
I just think it's a different generation. Maybe they're not used to doing that. But also a lot is because of technology. You can watch kids play, you know, at home on your laptop or, you know, things like that. So I think it's gotten a little more streamlined than actually having to sit in the gym all the time. And, you know, they've narrowed down the recruiting window too. So a lot of things have changed since I first started recruiting. I mean, but don't get me wrong. I love recruiting. I love going on the road and meeting coaches and meeting my colleagues and, you know, sitting in the bleachers and running from gym to gym. And anyway, that's just me.
Any other questions for Coach? Okay, well, Coach, I want to thank you so much for your time. This has been an honor and a privilege for a lot of us. And like I said earlier, if they don't know, now they know. And you definitely set the bar pretty high for a lot of us coming behind. And thank you so much for your time and your story. I know there's more there's more to your story. But if those who want to reach out to Coach, you've got your contact. If you guys didn't get it, go ahead and reach out to one of us. We'll be more than happy to share it with you guys. But thank you again for your time. We're going to kind of pivot and pass the ball over to our next speaker.
Hey, I want to just thank everyone for taking the time to tune in. I hope I didn't put you to sleep too often. So good luck to all of you.
Coach, I'll say I think a lot of people were laughing. They're just on mute, and we kind of policed that. But I think you got a lot of people laughing and giggling. So you gave me an ab workout, and I needed it. Thank you so much. So if you're able to stick on, that'd be great. We're going to have our next speaker here, Grace Rieker-Franca, who's actually the assistant coach, first year, just completed her first year at Pepperdine. Was previously at Biola. So if she's going to be talking about covering player development and how it works within the offense. Get some player development stuff in here. So without further ado, Grace, if you can unmute yourself, and there you go.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. First off, Coach Matsu, or AKA DJ Matsu Mats, thanks so much for sharing that. That was awesome. I know I was on mute, but I was definitely laughing the whole time. That was great stuff. When I met you probably like a few years ago, but I was introduced to you as, oh, this is the legend, Coach Matsuhara. So ever since then, I know it's an honor to kind of be in your presence, but also to hear your story has been really great. So appreciate you sharing. Like Coach Steve said, I'm going to be kind of pivoting now into some player development. So I'm going to actually share my screen. I made a little bit of a PowerPoint. So I'm going to share that now. So again, just kind of covering player development. Just wanted to be able to kind of share a little bit of what we're doing at Pepperdine, kind of break down some of our off-season workouts, and kind of a little bit of film so you guys can kind of see what we're doing. Just finished my first year, as Coach Steve said, so going to intro and start off with a little bit of my journey. I started off as a JV assistant coach at Los Altos High School here in Hacienda Heights, became a manager with the women's basketball team at Biola University. So I was a student there. Wanted to stay involved in basketball. Wasn't really sure the career path that I was going to be on, but knew that I loved basketball, had a passion for it. So was really fortunate to be a manager for the team while also coaching as a JV assistant. From there, kind of moved to Whittier Christian High School, became a varsity assistant, and then in the second year was an interim head coach. Made some really good connections while being a manager at Biola. The assistant became the head coach. So after my couple of years at Whittier Christian, she gave me the opportunity to come back to Biola to be an assistant coach after I graduated from college there. And after a year, she became the athletic director at Biola. Coach Alan Nakamura, who's on this call now. Hey, Coach. Hope you're doing good. He actually gave me the opportunity to stay on staff with him, and I actually coached with him for 4 years at Biola before taking this position now at Pepperdine. I met Coach Kristin Dowling actually on the road recruiting a long time ago, and so we were able to kind of connect. We stayed friends. Really, when she got this position, and she offered the assistant coach position to me, it was just too good of an opportunity to pass up. And so I'm really excited to finish that first year now at Pepperdine, and shout out to some of my coworkers and fellow co-laborers that are on the call here to help support me as well. So I've been really fortunate to just work with such a great staff at such a great institution. Really looking forward to season 2 as we're kind of approaching that now. So kind of when we first talk about player development, philosophy is really important. Our mission is to develop the whole person academically, athletically, personally, while competing for championships. How we basically cast out that vision is through having energy, toughness, and togetherness. We emphasize that in everything that we do. And so really I'm thinking about how do I make this mission and vision applicable to my player development. And so kind of just hitting quickly some of these different tiers, academic development. I mean, we have 3 tiers of accountability. That's academic advisors, one specifically through athletics, who does the scheduling of the classes, tutors, resources. And then we do academic teams with our coaches. So we split up each of our players amongst our coaches, do weekly check-ins, make sure that the girls are getting the resources that they need. If they're struggling in classes, we know about it, and we're being proactive in the process, because we know, again, we need them playing on the court, and we can't have and afford them to be academically ineligible. So having those tiers of accountability really help us to be efficient. Going into their personal development, we're always looking to develop leaders, and we do that through various ways. Team building is kind of one of those ways. We're right now reading a book called Chop Wood, Carry Water by Joshua Metcalf, and it's really about falling in love with the process of getting better. And I think, especially in this day and age, so often we have kids who want things instantly, right? Like, I just want to be the greatest 3-point shooter. I want to be this, I want to be that. But really, this book helps break things down into understanding the process of how you really become great. And a lot of times that's by doing tasks that seem boring and making it fun and making it something worth your while, something practical every day. So that's something that we like to emphasize with our kids. Community service. We also have counseling, student athlete counseling. So we have actually a sports psychologist dedicated to the mental health of our student athletes. They also work with the counselors on campus that deal with kind of various issues, and they really partner up to really provide those resources to our kids. Obviously, mental health is kind of a big hot topic right now, especially in the world of sports. And so, again, just thinking about how we develop our players as a whole, this is a big part of that. Them having the resources to be able to share their stories, but also get the help that they need. And then lastly, the academic teams, again, we're kind of checking in, not just on academics, but also just seeing how they're doing in life. Our coaches are honestly some of the most loving and giving people I've ever known. And so just wanting to be able to share that wealth of knowledge and experience with our kids has been very, very rewarding. And so, I mean, that's a huge part of, for me, why I love coaching is really that mentoring aspect, being able to love on our kids, being able to help grow them as people. Because in the long run, basketball lasts for, a certain time as far as playing. And so who they are as people is always going to be the most important thing. And so that's, again, all part of their development. And then going into athletic development, which is, a lot of why we're here. I think for me, when I was given this task, just this off season to think about our player development, it's really important to think about the team goals versus the individual goals. As a team, what are we trying to run? So something that we do at Pepperdine, a lot of pick and roll offenses. And then within that, it's when do we need them to be able to make a decision versus execute something off of a quick hitter, right? And so what that looks like a lot of times can be, decision makers off that pick and roll. Am I hitting the roll? Am I hitting, am I reading the defense? All those kind of variables that kind of go into decision making versus, hey, I really just need to execute this specific look within the offense of a quick hitter. And then another team goal is to be able to kind of spread out defensively and be really interchangeable as possible. And so with that, we kind of have really the concepts of what we're trying to put together. And then now when we go into individual goals, it's what are the skills now that they need to execute those concepts of our team goals. And so, for our point guards, I mean, some of these things are a little bit obvious, but, IQ and rhythm, vision and communication, timing on passes. We were fortunate. We had the best point guard in the conference this year in Barbara Satangan, and just an elite point guard, but really her strengths were all fundamentals. Had great IQ, had great vision, understood placement and timing, and was just so good to execute our pick and roll offense and also us getting out in transition. Wings, because of the offense that we're running, have to be solid in the catch and shoot, dribbling off screens and scoring at multiple levels. A lot of times when you kind of look at that deeper, a lot of that is footwork. A lot of that is their release. A lot of that is being able to, like I said, score on multiple levels where they're finishing at the basket, but also, able to finish maybe a mid-range or stretch out the defense and finish a three. And then lastly, our posts, a lot of it is the footwork. A lot of it is, them being able to understand their placement around the key. I know that's been something that we're kind of a work in progress, and we were a little bit small in the post. So we actually had a lot of our post players that were undersized be able to shoot from mid-range ability. And we kind of like that because it really stretched out the defense, really gave them the edge to be able to create, to take people off the dribble. And then obviously within the post positions, rebounding and athleticism are really important. So again, it's really forming what are our team concepts as a whole, and then breaking that down by position or however that you see fit, to really break down the individual skills to make that concept work. And so again, if you guys have questions, I mean, Coach, feel free if you want to ever jump in or stop me, or I could take them at the end, whatever is most suitable to you guys.
I do have a question real quick, Grace, if you don't mind. Going back to the footwork you mentioned, do you guys teach your posts or even the guards the strong foot pivot, or does it matter? Do you guys teach both to learn how to come off of one foot or pivot one foot the other?
Right. We definitely teach both. We want our posts to be kind of as versatile as possible. I'll kind of show an example of a post workout that we do, but some of their warm-ups are, working on the drop step, but then working on the counters to the drop step. So understanding pivots on both sides. Obviously, when we kind of get into season, I mean, quarantine has kind of thrown us a little bit off with our development as far as being on the court with them and walking through these things. But, hopefully in the preseason, we're kind of able to walk a little bit more through those things and kind of be more versatile, working both pivots. We want them to be as comfortable and versatile as possible. But yeah, again, when we're in the season though, we're not, we're really focusing on their strengths at that point and capitalizing on those. So I'll kind of break that down a little bit. I don't know if that answered your question, Coach, or.
It did. Thank you.
Yeah. So I kind of break this down based upon seasons, preseason, in-season, and postseason. Preseason, again, we're kind of working on our position work. I consider us kind of entering into that preseason now, this June, July state. And so really kind of what our focus right now, what we've been doing as a team is every Monday, we're talking basketball with our kids. And so that's on the Zoom. And so we're really breaking down really what the concepts are, the vocabulary that we use, especially with our new incomers. Right now we have 6 new incomers. So a really, really big turnover from our year 1 to year 2. So a lot of it is learning, understanding just kind of our talking points and really understanding the concepts of what we're trying to accomplish defensively. And so alongside with that, we're also working on a lot of position work. So guards will have very specific individual work pertaining to their position. So for example, right now our wings, they're working on a lot of pick and roll options because they're putting that within our offense. And then our post players, again, a lot of it is the footwork at the bottom of the key. So again, I'll show some examples of those. But in the preseason, I feel like it's really important to name the drills. I got this actually from Coach Allen. Really the key to having efficiency within your practice is being able to name a drill, have everybody get into it, and we're like, go. As far as we don't want to have to reteach things every practice. So I feel like the preseason is an important time to kind of break down those drills of what they look like so that when we're in season, we're calling them out. Everybody knows if it's X finish, like everybody's lined up at the bottom of the basket. Now we're making X's and we're finishing our layups for our guards. So things like that where they're able to know exactly what we're doing and we get into it and we're going hard and we're focusing now on the footwork, the finish, the release, all that kind of stuff. Then again, I kind of talked about a little bit of our team defense. Again, the angles of our footwork. For us right now, we're really focusing for our guards specifically perimeter defense. So what does that look like for our angles? Where is our foot supposed to be placed when we're closing out? Where are we trying to force the ball into those areas? And what does help look like? So breaking all those things down and then kind of starting to intro into our team offense so they have an idea of things that we're running, especially with 6 newcomers.
So Grace,
yeah.
where do you force the ball on your defense?
Right now we're forcing to the baseline. So everything that we're kind of doing with our guards right now, we're having them line up to kind of the top shoulder and pushing them back toward the sideline, kind of like an ice look a little bit, but really just trying to create those angles so we're forcing toward the baseline and to the help.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for the question. And another thing that we talk about is so important right now for our girls is open gym time. I don't know if you guys have struggled as coaches or experienced this, but there just tends to be hard times really starting open gyms or getting girls together. So something that I found helpful, kind of the last 5 to 10 minutes of your practice in the preseason, I started trying to do 5-on-5s immediately, just so that, again, they're kind of in it, they're getting used to it. And then that way, when the time runs out, the coaches got to get off the floor, the girls are kind of in that rhythm and they can kind of just keep the open gyms going. As you guys know, there's just so much knowledge and experience that comes from running pickup games. I feel like it's a little bit of a lost art sometimes these days within at least our college players, where they're meeting up friends and they're just playing some pickup games and, learning the movements of the game and the natural kind of instincts of it. So as much open gym that we could do, we really encourage our team to do. When we're in the season, obviously this gets pretty tricky. We only usually get about 10 to 15 minutes of practice. So it's really about efficiency. And I think overall it's our kids knowing what their roles are and to be able to capitalize on their strengths. We're not trying to develop some new skills right in the middle of the season. We're trying to have them be their best and perform at their best and what they're good at, right? And so we'll oftentimes do guard split for about 10, 15 minutes, and we'll really work on team concepts by position and according to scouting reports. So a lot of times for us this past year in the guard positioning, we really worked on our pick and roll offenses because that was really our base for what we were running. And so what we would really do is just kind of determine the defense that we were about to play that week. So whether it was a hedge, whether it was an over with a shadow, or whether it was an ice, those are really the things that we were focusing on. Like, how can we get to the basket? How can we score against this defense using our offense? And that's really the focus. So having a
Coach,
plan, yeah.
how do you determine what kind of pick and roll defense you'll be going up against? I mean, how much film do you kind of have to watch to determine that? Because I know against a conference team, and you kind of have footage of them from the prior years, but what about non-conference games?
Yeah. We're really thankful to have Synergy. Synergy Sports has really everything that we possibly need as far as teams. If there is like a new coaching change, I feel like that would be the only exception. But if it's the same staff, a lot of times we really base it upon what they've done in years and seasons past. And so a lot of times we're hopping on Synergy, starting maybe like 2 weeks out to a week out, and really just starting to get to know the opponents. We divide our scouting reports with our assistant coaches. So we all kind of have that in advance. So we know exactly which scouts we're doing, before our season even starts. So we could start doing that as soon as possible. But normally coaches, when they're teaching defenses, I would say it doesn't usually vary too much. So we just prepare them as best as possible according to what the film shows in the last season. And for me personally, I watch at least 3 games prior to. So if it's the start of the season, I'll try to watch at least 3 different games, 2 conference ones against probably the top of the conference versus maybe 1 non-conference game, just so I'm getting kind of a feel of what they're doing defensively and then how to kind of make that applicable to what we're doing offensively.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, for sure. And so kind of going into that as well, obviously continuing on, when we hit the postseason and, we kind of finish, the biggest thing for us is recovery and rehab, giving them some of that time off to just recover from the tournament. It could be pretty grueling, as you guys know, with back-to-back games. But really the exciting part now is in that postseason, getting to expand those individual skills. And so this is the time now to work on the offhands and, the offensive package and adding those things in. And a lot of that is, we like to use film a lot because, that saying film doesn't lie. When you're pointing and coaching, these kids, especially at this level, there's just such great knowledge here. They're very self-aware of, who they are as a player and what they're able to accomplish. And so having the film really points to kind of the areas that they need to improve on, but visually so that they could see and know as you're kind of putting together the player development packet. And so I'm going to kind of move on to this next part. Something that, I've found helpful for me is to just have a list of drills for skills. Being fortunate to have coached at the high school level, NAIA D2, and then now be at the D1, a lot of times the drills don't really change, right? It's just the players do. And a lot of times, maybe I don't have to spend as much time in the fundamentals of a certain aspect, but I can really nitpick now within the drills that I have. And so this can look like a Google Doc or a Google folder, and really just all the lists, like the list of all your favorite ball handling drills for specific purposes, all your favorite shooting drills, whether that's catch and shoot, or whether that's on the move, or whether that's within pick and roll. I just think it's so important to have kind of a go-to list of some of your favorite drills and what has been successful that you've seen in kind of other programs, and really just add it to that list and have an ongoing list. And then I like to make that available to our players as well, because times like now with the quarantine, when they're doing their workouts, sometimes they have free time, and a few of them have asked me, hey, do you just have like a drill I could do for this specific area? And I just go, yeah, let me just shoot you this list, and you kind of choose something that could be helpful to you. And I would make suggestions now, but something that, again, is kind of fun, but also that you've seen to really work as far as progression and improvement for your players. And so now I'm going to kind of go into a sample of the off-season quarantine workout that I've made for one of our players, Jada Rufus Milner. She was a redshirt freshman this year. She played the guard forward position for us, but I'm actually going to share her workout along with some film and then kind of go from there. So let me share this. So here's Jada's packet that I kind of put together for her. And so I always like to start off with the philosophy at the top of this. This first page is really a summary of their season and them as players, just what they're able to accomplish, and then, again, strengths and areas of growth. But summarize and really emphasize kind of just these key statistics. So she was about 45% from field goal percentage. Free throw percentage was not great this year, so that's definitely an area of improvement. Boards per game, assist to turnover ratio, and then I always love including just kind of their role. Came in at this spot with great defensive energy. We always, she was a role player for us this year, but we want her to be able to capitalize on that. But being able to acknowledge the areas that they did well, and I think goes a long way, so that they, again, it could be reinforced, but they understand their position within the team. And so through kind of her stats, we set goals. So let's get to 50% field goal percentage. Let's get 6 free throw attempts per game, 80% from the free throw line. That's kind of a team goal. So I kind of just keep that. And then 3 O boards a game. And something, again, for each of our players, we really try to be specific with them about what they hope to accomplish, or what we hope they accomplish on the court. Because at the end of the day, these kids, they want to make an impact. And a lot of times, what do they tend to look at, right? At the stats at the end, how many points did I score at the end of the game? And it could be, kind of a daunting thing if they're not scoring 10, 20 points, or if we're not running quick hitters for them to catch and shoot, right? So really, how can we keep them involved, engaged, to really excel at the things that they are good at, but also improve in areas to help them be more impactful within our offense and within our defense. And so we kind of highlight that now with her areas of strength. I kind of point out driving to the basket. And again, I'm trying to put tangible goals for her. Can we get to the basket and drive 3 or 4 times a game? I think we could do that. Yeah, rebounding. Okay, can we get 2 boards a game? She's like, yeah, coach, I could definitely do that. I could definitely do that. And then, along with the goals within these areas of strength, it's what are the outcomes of these goals, right? So again, Jay, if you get 2 boards, you have an opportunity to get 4 points on putbacks. Right. So again, it's setting a goal, but making it tangible to why are we doing this? Right. There always has to be a why, and we're encouraging them to be proactive within these skills. And then drawing fouls. Again, if we could draw 1 or 2 fouls a quarter, that puts us at the free throw line, then that could be up to 8 points that you have in the game. Right. And so again, easy ways for them to get on the stat sheet without having to necessarily be creating them herself. And so areas of growth, I talked about catch and shoot, ball handling, finishing at the rim, And so again, those are kind of just some of the areas of growth. I'm going to scan through the workouts and what this looks like. Again, you
Hey,
guys are
Grace,
fine. Yeah.
quick question. This is
Yeah.
Steve.
Yeah.
Are there any consequences for those that do not meet their goals? And if they're not meeting the goals, do you guys focus on that more in workouts to kind of better their quote unquote weakness, I guess you want to say?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think as of right now, we don't have specific as far as the overall goals that they're meeting as far as 50%. This is the first time we're really setting goals with them. This first year was kind of a bit of a whirlwind, so we were kind of in survival mode most of the year. But this year now, this upcoming year, we're hoping to definitely have more consequences and accountability towards that. But as far as within some of the drills, I know like you'll see it down here. I have like 10 free throws, and the goal is for 80% to make 8 out of 10, right? And if they're making less than 8, then you owe an up and back. So something, you know, really small, really simple, but again, just kind of a little piece of accountability in there where we're trying to kind of check those things daily. But because this is kind of like our first off season with them, we don't have really set consequences. But that's definitely something we're hopeful for in the future moving forward. So again, kind of the workouts here, as you can kind of see, we always start with kind of our basics, our ball handling. It's, you know, it's nothing fancy, but really the focus is on the form and the quality of each rep. So I talk about energy, right? Bringing it back to our philosophy. Remember these things as we're going hard in this drill. And then we do a little bit of a shooting warm up. We have the mic and X finish, like I was talking about, things that they know of, they're used to. And then we kind of move into the toughness portion, again, pushing through mental and physical fatigue at this point, working on our defense. So like I said, on Mondays, we're kind of giving them new drills every week to kind of work on. And so this is one of the drills that we have. We talked about the closeouts. And so making sure that their angles of their footwork are correct. So facing, you know, we're forcing to the baseline. So making sure that our footwork is really imaging, pushing them back to the sideline, forcing them down to the baseline, holding their line. Those are kind of some of the things that we've been emphasizing within the drill. And then catch footwork, I'll kind of show the video and then kind of come back to this, but I'll talk a little bit more on that. O-board drill, again, make sure that her strengths are staying her strengths. We always want to sustain, you know, we never want to diminish any of our strengths while improving on other things. So constantly thinking about, okay, how can they practice the things that they're really good at while also improving this off season. And then lastly, the together aspect, you know, making this applicable to game situations. And so pick and roll scoring is kind of the emphasis here. And then as far as the accountability piece, I think this is really important to make sure we could see the progress, right? So they're listing out how much that they're making through each drill. I kind of have it labeled out here, and they're filling it out as they go. So again, when we kind of come back 4 weeks later, hey, you were at 50% on your free throws, but now you're hitting 8 out of 10. So you're hitting your goal. That's awesome. You know, let's keep that up. Something to kind of give them momentum. And so along with this workout, I mean, this is just a sample of day one workout. Usually there's 3 days or 4 days on here. But I'm going to kind of go back and show the film that I pair this up with. And so I'm going to just let this play and then kind of go back to our workout. So this was provided to our kids, kind of just the highlights and some of the areas of improvement for them to kind of watch themselves. And you'll kind of see at the bottom, I have some of the captions so that they kind of know our coaches' notes of our thoughts and, you know, what we applaud and just areas to work on. So I'm going to play that now. I'm going to kill the volume on this. So again, here it's just highlighting just some of the strengths, things she does well. Talk about a great face up, great pump fake. Usually I'm only doing 2 to 3 clips per. We don't want to kill them with film and things to study for, but, you know, we want to kind of get efficient to the point, you know, really emphasize the things that they're doing well and highlight those things. So again, great movement off the ball, rebounding. Jada finishes well off of 2 feet, so that's something that we emphasize a lot with her. And again, here we're talking about driving to the basket, right? This is a goal to get 3 to 4 drives to the basket per game. Okay. Cutting to the basket and then drawing fouls, right? We talked about the opportunities that she'll have to get to the free throw line and score from the free throw line, drawing fouls. So this is an area of improvement. We talk about catch and shoots. A lot of this really for Jada is timing and her footwork. So we'll talk about that within the workout and what that looks like. And then again, I talk about reading the defense prior to the catch. A lot of times she's already in motion as she's catching the ball and ready to go. So really focusing on her footwork, what that looks like on the catch and shoot. She was called a lot for travels throughout the season. So really getting her comfortable with jump stops, left, right, kind of the various footworks that are necessary for her to be more effective on the court. And so I'll kind of go back to this. So again, going back to the workouts, what that looks like, this catch footwork, she gets it a lot at the elbow extended. So, we're putting in a drill. This is specific to her from the left to right elbow where she's now just coming and she's catching into a face up. A lot of times, like that film showed, she's already in motion, cutting to the basket before she's even looking for her shot. So again, being very specific, being very disciplined on, okay, I'm coming over into a jump stop, I'm faced up, and I'm ready to shoot the ball. 5 catches, and then we work on the left to right, left, right, up. Again, working on facing up, being disciplined on the catch and shoot. And then we'll kind of go into, from there, a shot fake into a 1 dribble layup. And again, that's specific to Jada because that's an area for her that, she gets a lot of touches in the free throw line extended. And then again, kind of offensive rebounding, we want her to continue to have that. So we have that drill specific to her. And then pick and roll scoring, this is definitely an area for her to improve in. She didn't really handle the ball a lot for us this year. So that's kind of an area that we want her to get better at from the wing position. So I have her from the guard wing, focusing on coming off of a pick, getting into a layup, into a pull-up, and then a crossover. So again, that's kind of just the fullness of everything that we kind of put together for their workout packets.
How long does it, from your experience, it varies from player to player, but how long does it take for a player to maybe for you to see that improvement, for her to see that improvement, especially on that 1-2 in her footwork and her shooting as a big?
Yeah, that's a great question. It definitely depends from player to player, but something that I was actually working on with our guards at Biola before coming to Pepperdine was their punch dribble into a stop, into a change of pace. And so I think we had our spring workouts, and I think we really didn't start seeing improvement. We were working out 3 times a week, and when the light bulb kind of went off and they're actually doing it right with the right footwork, it was basically week 3, practice 3. So kind of end of week 3 going into week 4. Obviously it again depends on just the players and the skills and abilities, but for them it was really, that's 40 minutes. We were doing 40-minute practices at that time. So 40-minute practices 3 times a week, and it was kind of at the end of week 3 going into week 4. But again, I think it depends on the skill as well that they're learning, because these are habits that they carry, from, middle school, high school, everything beyond. So, I'm hoping with Jada that's something that we kind of iron out by the end of the summer, so that she's kind of ready to go for the season.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And so again, just this is kind of the workout plan with the accountability. I'll kind of go back a little bit, and I'm going to also show one of our post workouts as well. Oh, I was actually there already. So this is for one of our post players, Tara. So kind of same thing, a summary. Unfortunately, she didn't get to play this year, but kind of similar goals. We put conditioning for her. Just getting into shape has been a big one. Again, areas of strength, the goals, how to make those goals accomplished, and then really getting into the workouts now. We always have our post players do ball handling no matter what. That's got to be a skill that they have. Obviously not bringing the ball all the way up the floor, the length of the floor, but being comfortable dribbling the ball if necessary. And then we go into the shooting, the defense, the offensive rebounding as well. And then kind of these areas were given by, you know, our post coach as far as their face up, them being able to use, I know Coach Steve, you talked about this, but we do both sides of the pivot. So again, this is from the right elbow. They're working on the right foot leading, then the left foot leading, and then left elbow, same thing. Both pivots, being as versatile as possible. That's something that we try, again, to really hammer into our team as much as possible. And then recording the progress, seeing if they're getting better week by week or not. So that's kind of one of the samples of the guards and the post workouts. If you guys, you know, want these or, you know, want the samples of these, I could always send those to you, no problem. And then I'm just going to kind of wrap it up now with a little bit of kind of the summary of everything I kind of talked about. I think it starts with the philosophy, especially of the head coach. Got to know what the overall goals are in order to plan these individual player development packets, and then really wrestling between what's a team concept versus the individual skills within that concept and becoming really good. If you're running a pick and roll offense, you probably don't want to just do random ball handling, but maybe ball handling off of pick and rolls and, you know, holding off your defender on the pick and roll, and then the timing of your passes. And then keeping a list of the drills for skills. Want to be able to have an ongoing list, things that you go to that you know are effective, that you know players buy into, that you can really see the progression and the improvement. And then I talk about focus on progression and improvement. Coach, as you kind of asked how long it takes, sometimes it takes, you know, the first day and they get it and it clicks, and some days it might take 3 or 4 weeks. So just depending upon each person, I think always focusing on progression and improvement in its entirety, because I think oftentimes, again, the culture of our day and age in our society is things have to be instant, right? Well, I put in this 30-minute workout, so shouldn't I be like Steph Curry and shoot from 10 feet off the three? No, it doesn't work like that, right? There's hours and hours, and a lot of it is developing the habits and the actions to kind of, again, make them successful on the court. And then I always encourage welcoming feedback. I think it's so important as coaches that we get feedback from both, you know, our fellow peers and coaches, seeing what other people do, but also from the players. You know, what worked well within, you know, player development this year? What are areas that, you know, you felt were helpful? What were areas that were challenging? What areas would you change? And I think those are always just good things to kind of keep in mind, because at the end of the day, you know, they need to be bought into what you're doing. And then the last thing I put is, you know, that quote of, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I would say in our case with our girls, they definitely care about how much you know, but I would say it really stems from first point, us caring for them as players as a whole. And that really makes a difference in player development. So be relational with your kids, get to know them, not just on the court, but off the court. And I think that goes a long way, like what Coach Matsu was talking about earlier. You know, those relationships and those things are really the key to developing, you know, improvement and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what I had, but I kind of, you know, if you guys have any further questions, would love to answer those. And I also, this is my information. You guys could always email me at any time. And I would love to share or talk about player development, what you guys are doing in your programs, but also be able to share kind of a little bit more of what we're doing as well. So.
Grace, this is Mike with UC Riverside. Were you hired to do this kind of stuff, like as at Pepperdine? Did they know, or is this part of the program? Yeah.
So part of my interview process with Coach Kristin, she actually, the day after she interviewed me, the next day at like 7 a.m., I met her at a high school and actually did a workout with a player. And so she kind of evaluated a little bit some of the drills that I was doing with them one-on-one and kind of the concept. She wanted to see how I coached them up, and also kind of what were my talking points and my coaching points of development with the kids. So she kind of brought me on to do this. But this is kind of the first time I've been, you know, fully in charge of player development as a whole. So it's been a fun process, but now I'm still trying to figure out what are the areas that we need and what that looks like kind of moving forward. So.
Yeah, I think this is, it's really great stuff, because we do stuff like that. And I think teams in the NBA do stuff like that as well. I think it's really, really good. Well, when you were hired or when you interviewed, just kind of like talking to some of us coaches who are trying to find another position or like yourself or maybe move up, I guess. What was your like selling point? Like, how did you sell yourself to Coach Kristin and Pepperdine?
Yeah. I think what helped was, you know, I think Kristin knew me as a person. She actually coached a player that I mentored. And so we really stayed connected over the years of, you know, me going to her games, her coming to some of ours. But I really think for her, it was important to find coaches who really cared about the kids, you know, the overall philosophy and the mission, which was to develop them as a whole. And I think she knew my heart for, you know, player development, again, not just as, you know, X's and O's, but because I really care about kids. I want to mentor. That's really been my passion, apart from, you know, teaching the game, is to mentor kids. I think she knew my heart in that and really thought that I could be a vital part of the program. And so that was really my I guess, I don't want to say selling point, but something that she really appreciated and saw in me early on was my my desire to develop, you know, relationships with these kids that, you know, could serve them well, you know, as people first and as athletes second. So that was
one of the things that I don't know you really, except that I know that we went to the same high school, which is actually
yeah,
all the world it is like that. Grace and I just met each other just with the Asian coaches platform in the last like 3 months. But just like, I would think that your, I guess, brand or whatever, just based on your social media, is like you have great relationships with your players. That's, I mean, just by looking at your Instagram and Twitter, that would be my guess. So I would just, that would be my guess, but just by seeing that. But yeah, it was great. That was great stuff. I love it.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, again, I put my TikTok on here, shameless plug, but again, just another way I kind of try to stay connected with the kids these days. I'm getting a little bit older, so
I see those.
you know, you gotta kind of stay relevant. I'm sorry?
I'm not on TikTok, but I see your like TikToks, like
yeah, I mean, you know, you gotta have fun with it. I think the biggest thing when it comes to this, especially with basketball, and we're kind of talking about relationships now, I think, you know, the more that you could develop that relationship and that trust with the kids, the more that they're going to buy into everything that you say and you do, you know? And I think for me, I've always said that's the difference between kids just doing what you want and abiding by whatever you say versus the kids that are willing to run through a wall for you and really do anything to help you to be successful, is really that relationship. I think the more invested that you are in them and they understand that, and the belief that you have in your kids will really take them, honestly, beyond any kind of expectation I think that they would have for themselves, but also that you would probably have for yourself as a coach. So, yeah.
Well, it just seems like it would also lead into you being a good recruiter, like having that social media presence and that relationship with your players.
Yeah, I got to credit that to Coach Biro, who's, I think he's on this call as well, but Coach Brian Rosario, he's really the social media guru. So I learned a lot from him. He's our head of recruiting for us at Pepperdine, but does an exceptional job of connecting with our student athletes. And he's always emphasized using, you know, whatever platform the kids are using, we got to use as well. We got to be wherever the kids are at. And I feel like that's such wisdom right there. Helps us to kind of stay in the know, and again, keeps us connected to our kids in the various aspects that they're involved in.
So in terms of like your recruiting, do you guys, I know you guys run a pick and roll offense, so do you guys say, like, specifically if a girl shoots off the dribble a lot, will you kind of just X her out, or will you kind of get to know her, see if she's willing to change her game, or what's kind of your recruiting process for your guys' team?
Yeah, we would definitely not X her out if she could score off of a off the dribble. I think that's always something you're gonna look for and be like, yeah, we definitely gotta know who this girl is. But I think it's more for us about positions. So again, if she's able to have that skill of being able to shoot off the dribble, then hey, she'd fit great within our our wing positions. Excuse me, and also within the skills that we're doing. I mean, again, this is kind of we're going into our second year, so things are pretty, for me at least, are pretty early on. But really, what we're concerned about as far as recruiting is, are these kids going to be able to compete against the other teams in our conference? It's comparing them to the top of the league. So I mean, we play Gonzaga, we play BYU, we play Portland, who won the WCC tournament this year. And really, when we think about the players that we're recruiting, it's okay, do they have the skills within our offense to beat Gonzaga? And then do they have the skills defensively, or can we build them up to have the skills defensively to stop BYU, to match up BYU? So it's really, for us, it's how are we playing to the strengths of what we're running, but also to defeat the conference, because that's kind of the end goal, right? Is to win and to finish at the top. So that's kind of really the focus, more so than the actual maybe like specific skill sets. I think specific skill sets are important within, again, point guards, like what I kind of listed out before, the point guards, the wings, and then our forwards and posts. But if they could shoot the rock, we're talking to them. So
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. I'm gonna probably stop sharing my screen now. But yeah, any other questions though? I don't know I'm not the head of recruiting, and Bureau's on this call, so I don't know if Bureau, you wanted to add to the recruiting aspect. I might have butchered his whole philosophy right there. He's like, that's not
Great. Grace, is he writing you a check for that little shout out?
Yeah, every time it's getting pretty I'm charging a lot.
I know Alan had a question, and good old Alan, he lost connection. He just sent me a text, and so I think he's going to try to jump on real quick to try to ask a question. If not, I can ask it for him, and he can get it on the recording. But while I'm waiting for his text or so, so tell me about your first year. Can you talk to us about your year at Division I, Pepperdine? How was your experience? What can you take from it? I mean, you talk about feedback. How about your feedback?
Yeah. I was asked this question a lot, actually, and I used to ask this all the time to all my friends who had kind of jumped from these D2 NAI to D1. But I would say it's kind of early on to kind of determine a lot of the differences, because I think year one, again, it's just so much of like a whirlwind. You're trying to survive, you're trying to understand, you're trying to adapt, and you're trying to really get up to speed with really everything that's going on or that happened prior to you even coming, and then really adapting to what's my role within this new staff. I mean, we were a brand new staff from top to bottom. So head coach, all assistants, our Dobo, we were all new. So we were really trying to just figure it out and survive the season a little bit. But what I will say, I think one of the biggest differences that I've experienced from coming from the D2 to the D1 is that at the D2 level, you're really wearing a lot of different hats. You're kind of the recruiting coordinator slash Dobo. You're creating the itineraries for travel, figuring out where we're going to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner when we're out there. But you're also washing laundry at the end of the night while you're preparing the scout for the next game. So you're kind of doing all of that into one. And I just remember a lot of late nights, at the D2 level. But I think again, and this is something that Alan actually warned me about, was like, at the D1 level, it's so great because you kind of get to focus on an area. So I think that has been something I've experienced, is to now you're not having to spread yourself thin. Or like I said, you're not becoming a jack of all trades, but a master of none. You're now becoming a master of something. And so, again, like I shared, it's been really fun to now take over player development and really make that kind of my focus and excel in it and be great at it, and really think about the different ways to make this successful within our program, versus having to worry about, again, as much as I love the kids, like I don't really care too much about like the granola bars that are vegan, that, I don't know, don't contain certain ingredients and all that kind of stuff. That stuff is cool, but that's just not my favorite thing to do. So anywho, I think that's been kind of my experience from, D2 to D1, is being able to now focus on a specific skill set or specific area.
Hey, Grace, Anthony with Cal State Fullerton. I know it's your first year, but how have you gone about evaluating player development? Like, obviously with the pandemic, have you gone back and analyzed, like, hey, this person is better on this side of the floor, they're better catch and shoot versus, getting to the rim, or they have to finish better at the rim? Or are you doing anything to quantify, to put the information together and then give to your players? Or how do you go about that process?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think being in quarantine has been great as far as giving the time to now watch through a lot of film. And so that film that you saw of Jada, I mean, I made those for every one of our returning players from the season. And so really kind of spending time on, I mean, you guys know Synergy and how many clips kind of come through there. So you could kind of get into a whole little bit of watching like 800 clips of catch and shoot offense. But I think for me, I've really just tried to see the tendencies more than anything. So again, like I kind of pointed out in Jada's video, I was kind of seeing like from her offensive rebounding, does she do better, finishing off of 2 feet, or does she do better finishing off of 1 foot, on that catch? And so those things are really nitpicky, but I think, again, whatever information like that you could give and funnel down to your players, so you're like, hey, finish off of 2 feet. This is going to help you, balance, get to the rim, finish, be more impactful, be more effective. I think I like to be very, very specific and very, very detail oriented. So again, it gives them those things to kind of focus on. But we're kind of doing that with all our players now. It's a little bit difficult in the pandemic because we're not able to kind of be with them on the court. I think that's been the hardest thing, is to really know their growth. I mean, we're doing it based upon, how many shots they're making, but we're not really seeing the footwork into the shot. We're not really seeing, the specific details that we're pointing out. So I think that's the hardest part of being able to know if the reps that they're getting are effective or not, if that makes sense. But we're really trying to use film to be able to break those things down.
Grace, are you the recruiting coordinator, or do you have one?
No, recruiting coordinator is Brian Rosario.
Oh.
Yeah.
Brian has 2 hats. He's recruiting coordinator and video coordinator?
No. He's just the recruiting coordinator.
But do you guys have a separate video coordinator, or are you serving in that role?
No, we don't have a video coordinator.
Oh, okay.
So we kind of do it all ourselves.
Okay.
So kind of wearing 1.5 hats, each of us.
Give it all to Brian.
Yeah, I agree. He needs more work.
Yes, he's at the beach.
Alan, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. Colleen, first of all, thank you for sharing. That was great. And it's always wonderful to see you, and really appreciate you starting your talk off with the story about your father and the internment camp, which my ancestors also went through internment camps. So I really appreciate that and all you did from that humble beginning. and because of your passion for basketball. And I think Jeff said it, that you created your own luck in a lot of ways. And boy, Coach Grace, what a blessing she is. And I think that, as you guys said, you can see through all that she shared, the passion she has for the game, and then also the deep love she has for her players. So Grace is just a blessing to all. And that's the first thing that, I guess if you say, how has Grace progressed so quickly, is because of her love for the game and her love for the players. And even difficult to love players, Grace has done a wonderful job with. And it has been really stuck with the players, and the players love her and know that she loves them. She really does show that she cares. And then also, she's another example of someone who has really paid her dues, took the vow of poverty for sure, and excelled everywhere she's been. So she, just like Colleen, has created her own breaks for sure, and she's always been faithful and maximized her abilities where she's been at. So Grace, thank you for sharing. You're a blessing to us all. And I guess that one question for Grace would be, and I lost contact, I'm really bad at technology, Grace will tell you. So I lost contact as I was trying to ask her a question. But Grace, did you talk about maybe you talked a little bit about the difference working Division I, Division II, but how about working with how are the athletes different between NAIA Division I, Division II?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it really starts with the mentality. I think, a lot of times the kids in NAIA, although they love the game, I think they're just happy to be playing it, So I think there's kind of a different level of the seriousness of, wanting to improve and develop a lot of times because, at the NAIA level, even at the, the D2 level, there's a huge emphasis of them having a holistic college experience. And so, a lot of times they're enjoying kind of having more freedom to be able to hang out, be with friends, and join extracurricular activities, all those things. But I think at the D1 level, there's definitely a different level or just a different mentality in terms of the seriousness of the athletes. I think there's a stronger desire, to, ball is life is kind of is a big thing, I think for them, they're in the gym all the time. A lot of them, have aspirations to play at the next level, whether that's overseas, whether that's in the league, whatever that looks like, there's kind of a different level of seriousness. So I feel like the mentality is definitely different at this level. And then I would say as far as the skills, I think the skills and the athleticism are just, again, a whole worlds apart. Getting into, Pepperdine and just seeing them lift for the first time. I was just like, I was shocked. I was like, wow, like you guys are really getting after it. So I definitely think, again, you're attracting just a different level of athleticism to this D1 level where these kids have been probably lifting, all throughout high school and took this a lot more seriously, really developed their skills. They're a lot more polished. So you're not really having to emphasize so much on the fundamentals. I think when you get to the lower levels, there's still a lot of emphasis on, a lot of kind of the basics and the fundamentals of like reteaching those things. And although I kind of showed you an example of one of our players who we kind of have to do that with, I would say that's not really usually the case for the majority of the kids. A lot of times it's how can we expand now their player packages? So I think about, one of our guards, Malia Bambrick, who made the WCC freshman team her first year last year and was a sophomore this year. But she could shoot the lights out of the gym and that's really her forte. But now it's like us as coaches, we're thinking about how do we expand that now? And so a big area of that is like, okay, having her finish at the rim, being able to take people off the dribble and actually get to the rim because everybody knows they're choking her up now on the 3-point line, not letting her shoot. So how can she become more versatile? So it's really now specific in like, how can we develop specific skills and packages to expand their game versus okay, let's teach them the basics of this, and then hopefully we get them playing at a high level, by the season starting. So I would say in the players, those are kind of the two biggest things, the mentality piece, and then the athleticism and skill, just abilities are a lot more advanced at this level, which has been really fun to coach. So yeah.
So I have a question. First and foremost, I think today's program is awesome, because Colleen and Grace are sharing, and Colleen, we go back a number of years, and working with Grace, I think this is going to be kind of the same type of question, but just from a different lens, because we have you both here, and I'm such a philosophical guy. I'd like to know, and Grace, you go first. Hearing Colleen's story, right, and all the years and just experience that she's bringing, talk about the legacy that you are getting from her, and then now have to leave behind, right, and set for yourself. And Colleen, I think when you hear Grace, and when you hear everything that she's doing and her route and all that, what's it mean to you to see someone who's so young, so inspiring, and so basically has what it takes, right, to have a career like you did? So, can you guys both speak to that?
Ooh. Thanks, Biro, for the easy question. For me, hearing Colleen's story, I've known of Coach's story a little bit, not to the degree that she shared. I think, her stories and just what she's experienced, I think there's just so much wisdom in that. But I think as a young coach in my journey, I always like to say, basketball always, I feel like, found a way to choose me. I think there was some points in time, when Coach Allen talked about taking a vow of poverty, where I really was like, is this worth it? As far as the money, I was like, living off of stipends, living at my parents' home, it was like, this is getting old a little bit to some degree. But, when I think about, even my start as a JV assistant, that first year, the head coach of JV got into some of a scandal kind of issue, and I ended up becoming the head coach literally the first game of conference because she kind of messed up right before that. And so this is my first year coaching. I'm 18 years old, and I'm coming into the position now. I was like, oh, well, you're the head coach now, we just move on. And I was like, okay, cool. So I just feel like there's always just been these circumstances where maybe I didn't necessarily create them for myself, but I always just tried to stay ready and be willing to accept those roles as they came. And then obviously, I think going into, networking and kind of, I'm a really outgoing person. I love people. And so being able to connect with people has always been a strong suit for me. But I always, to be honest, as being one who didn't play college basketball, it was always hard. Networking, because the first question you always get, where did you play? Where did you play college basketball at? And I'm like, I didn't play. I went straight into coaching high school and I'm coaching college. And so I think that's always been, an insecurity for me as not just a female coach, but an Asian female coach who now has no, college basketball playing experience. And so what can I, as, me, bring to the table? And I think that really, I had to really sift those things out early on in my coaching career to develop confidence. But I was like, well, I know I connect with people well, and I know I love the game and being a student of games. So that's what I really tried to surround myself with, was watching a lot of film, watching a lot of basketball, being able to connect with kids and, hey, I think I can make you better. And I have experience playing. I'm not terrible. I'll still, if we're playing one-on-one in a pickup, I'm still going to look to come after you and win. So it's not like I'm totally terrible at handling the ball and things like that. But I would say is, when the opportunity came, I welcomed it with open arms, and I tried to embrace it, and I think even going into Whittier Christian, I talked about being an interim head coach. That was my last year of college. So I was in the middle of finals. I was doing all kinds of crazy things, and still having to head coach a team. It was really difficult, but for me, it was like, well, this is another opportunity for me to take this over. And so for me, welcoming opportunities, no matter how uncomfortable they might be, I think has been a source of growth for myself, and kind of creating a space for myself at the table that maybe it's not through putting people down or through kind of anything other than just me working my butt off, you know, to get to where I want to be. And I think I think a little bit is luck, where, you know, coaches came in at the right time and were willing and able to give me a position. But sometimes, or at least I would say always, there's sacrifice at the other end of that, you know, where I'm, you know, because I was not making a lot coaching, I was working 3 jobs at the time. And that's something I know that coaches, a lot of us as coaches have experienced and have shared, especially early on. I mean, I was literally running from, you know, I was doing school in the mornings, and then I was at my first job at Starbucks, and then I would go to practice, and then I would finish, and I would do kind of, I would be like an admin assistant in the daytime for a few hours, go to practice, and then go to Starbucks and work at night and be a barista. So it was like, the schedules are always crazy, but I think in the long run, it's, you know, how bad do you want it, and what are you willing to sacrifice to get there? And I think I've just been fortunate to run into good people, to good coaches who want to mentor that and foster that and believe in me and invest in me. So that's a little bit of my story, but I'm not sure if that fully answers the question, but I'll let Colleen go because he probably has a lot more wisdom to share on that.
Well, thanks, Brian, for asking that question. And yes, we do go back a long way. So I'm glad to see you back at the 4-year level. And listen to you, Grace. I really enjoyed it. You really have enthusiasm, and your passion just like, wow, it just knocks out people. So I say to just keep doing that, and just your attention to detail on your player development plans. I mean, details are very important in coaching, no matter what level you're at. And I think I want to mention a couple things here that about 2 years ago, I made a presentation at the So You Want to Be a Coach program at the coaches convention. And I talked about these things called the 16 habits of mind. And 4 of them are things that I think I've used and still use. One is persisting. That's to be persistent in pursuing X's and O's or looking into the philosophy of different programs. Second is listening with understanding and empathy. That's very important, is to listen to what your colleagues, your players say to you, what they're trying to tell you. Third is finding humor in things. You know, you have to be able to laugh and smile. You can't just always think everything is so serious. And my 4th habit of mine that I really like to use is remaining open to continuous learning. So even though I'm retired, I still like to go watch practices, or I was actually able to go watch the training camp for the Sacramento Kings as well as the Clippers. And, you know, Grace, you talked about drills, you know, list of drills. I think the first thing that I noticed that I was sort of surprised at, I shouldn't have been, but was that the NBA guys, they use the same drills we all do. I mean, I went to the Clipper practice once, and they're put cones out on the floor, and they're doing 3-man weaves right around the cones. I go, wow, took my notebook expecting to write down some brand new drill, but let's face it, every drill that we all know, we stole from somebody else. And some of the best drills I've ever watched or seen are drills I see the high school coaches running. Brian in your area, Redondo Union, Marcelo Enriquez, he runs a great practice. I mean, those kids are attentive. You could hear a pin drop. I mean, there's nobody, you know, chitter-chattering or rolling their eyes or looking elsewhere. Or Ricky Murakami at West Torrance runs a great practice. Julian at Culver City, he doesn't have a lot of facilities there, but boy, some of the breakdown drills, he was very creative on how to use his side courts for his practices. And then just coming to mind, Ellis Barfield, of course, at Linwood. He's a legend in itself, but it's like those 4 programs, those kids are listening, they're engaged, they're not there to fool around. And you could just see why their teams are so successful. But Grace, keep it up. Keep up the energy. And when you talk about creating luck, yes, you could create your own luck. And I just hope that that carries over when I go visit a casino real soon.
That's good stuff. Thank you for being a trailblazer, Coach. We really appreciate, you sharing your story. I think I, for one, know that I'm inspired by hearing all that you've shared, and, hope to kind of stay connected with you in the future. So
anytime.
She's definitely a great one to know and to learn from. And I truly believe in having I say this all the time, I feel like I'm on repeat, but I truly believe in having 3 sets of friends, someone older than you to learn from, and someone younger to teach and mentor, and someone your same age you can grow old with. And you really need that in life. I think that helps you be a really well-rounded person on and off the court. So Colleen, you definitely mean so much to me in the game. I know you do, and everybody can agree with me. I know they do. And thank you so much for you. I want to ask one quick question, Grace. Might be a quick answer. You're young, you're hungry. I always say I'm hungry and thirsty. All right. So it sounds like you're in the same boat with me. Like that, Ant. So I just wanted to ask you, what quick advice can you give these young coaches that are maybe 1 year in the game or so? Because I know I get a lot of people call me and ask me for advice, and I know what I would say. But what would you say real quick, if you could say maybe a few words to these young cats are wanting to get into the college game? And, they say when you're young, you know it all. And then when you're older, you don't know anything, right? So instead of you saying, if I was 30 years from now, I'd look back and this is what I would do. Let's erase that. What would you do today? What would you tell the people right now listening who's trying to get into Division I basketball or just get into coaching in general?
Yeah, I would definitely say, I think kind of the biggest thing is know your why. Know why you're doing what you're doing. I mean, that's in everything that we do. I think as coaches, it's easy to get really caught up in, the wins and loss columns. And I know that's a big deal, especially at this level. But, in those moments when you're experiencing hardship, I think it's really important to reflect and know your why. Know, why am I in this? Why am I putting myself through the heartbreak of, losing in overtime to Portland? Or why am I putting myself through the stress of dealing with these poor attitudes with these kids throughout the season, And I think those moments, I know I found myself a lot of times this season just, just stressed about it. I was like, man, I feel like I'm not making a difference. I feel like, I mean, I wouldn't say this was this past season, but I think, throughout my different coaching experiences, I found myself a lot of times is it worth it? And is this something that I really want to pursue? And I think it always just came back to my why. Why am I doing this? And again, if I really define my 2 greatest passions in life, I think it's, being able to mentor and love and develop relationships with people, but also the game of basketball. I just feel like I can't escape it. I can't see myself without it. I was working a 9 to 5 desk job at a health insurance full time, and every day was I was thinking about basketball. Every day I was thinking about, how can I get back to being a coach? How can I, where do I see myself in the future? And I just was unhappy. And so I think when you know your why, you're kind of willing to make the sacrifices necessary to chase that dream a little bit, and you kind of see what it's worth to you, and if you're willing to do it. Because I think it's doable, but it's not for everybody. I know
you have to follow your heart.
Right. And be willing to roll with the losses of that as well, because following your heart doesn't always pay the bills. So that's the hard part of it.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, part of the topic, title of my topic was ride. So think of it as riding the Matterhorn at Disneyland. You're going to go up and down these peaks and valleys. And then another ride just came to mind is that, you can make your ride a lot easier if you network and form these strong connections. So then the next ride you could get on is, it's a small world. You'll know a lot of people and they can help you out. So, you know, just build your network and make that connection and keep that network connected. Don't lose touch with somebody, you know, just a note or a text or something just to stay in touch with people. And sooner or later, before you know it, you run into them again.
Right.
You know, like I know I ran into Brian again at the community college level when he was at Chandler. And for a while, I thought you went into business for a while there, Brian, but you must have just got pulled back into your real passion, right?
Yeah, Brian can't leave away from the game. The game can't let him go. So,
Right.
no, and Colleen, you're absolutely right. I think the best rides out there are roller coasters, you know, going up and down. Nobody wants to be on a roller coaster. It's just straight. My dad used to say, you know, you want it's up and down. It's like a heartbeat monitor. It's up and down. If you're flat, it's flat line, you're dead, right? So, you know, embrace the ride, and
Right.
definitely everybody's got a journey. And
Just
Colleen,
don't end up in the haunted house ride.
Colleen mentioned it just like her story. She was saying it felt like it was yesterday when Billy ripped her pants and the whole
Man.
story. So it'll go by like this thing, and Grace, you'll know this too. Is like you'll look back and say, "Wow, what a ride!" And I think Colleen can agree with me. I mean, I look back and I'm already thinking, "How did I get here?" There's
Right.
It's amazing, and so I believe I still have light years ahead of me to keep rolling in this game, and so do you and those that are out there and wanting to be in this game, and it's just taking being persistent. Sacrificing is huge, and time and money. So no, it's definitely great, and I know you've been at different levels. Myself have been at different levels, and it's pretty cool to see different levels of basketball and the way it runs, the talent level, the recruiting strategies, even the coaches, man, the coaches at that level. I mean, you worked for a great one. Alan does a great job, a great coach. I don't know if he's a better surfer or a coach. I don't know, man. I haven't seen him surf yet, but I know he loves surfing. But, you know, I thank you guys so much for everything you guys are doing and done, Colleen and Grace. Are there any questions out there for Grace and Colleen? You guys have their contacts. If you guys don't, feel free to reach out. We'll be more than happy to share it with you guys. I know Grace mentioned she's willing and able to share some of the workouts, that information that she was sharing with us. She'll be more than happy to email it to you guys if you guys are wanting it. You can contact her or us, and then you can get that. But if there aren't any other questions, I want to just really say thank you guys. Thank you everyone for being a part of this. This is by far a great session. It went pretty long, which in a good way, you know, and I enjoy it. And, you know, we definitely do this, enjoy this every week. And we want to try to do this to help you guys out. We will have this every Wednesday at the same time. And next week we've got, we're finalizing our second speaker, but our first speaker, we're going to have Aaron Katsuma, who's the men's director of basketball operations at Colorado State, and Anthony Santos, the assistant coach of men's basketball at Fullerton, will be moderating it. And we're working on another speaker. We just have to get approval from his organization. So if that's approved, then we'll make the announcement. Follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, and you'll get that information. But on behalf of Mike, Mikhail, and I want to thank you guys so much again for everything you guys have done and will do for the game of basketball. Thank you, Garrett, as always, for what you do behind the scenes. We're going to see your face one day. But thank you so much for what you're doing for us. And I hope to see more of you guys next week. Tell your friends, tell your social media people, your followers about us. We about this whole Asian coaches thing, because we just want to try to help everyone out. All right. Colleen, any last words? And Grace, any last words?
Wake up, everybody. Good luck.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for asking me.
Thank you too. And you guys be safe out there. Please be safe. And again, thank you. And we'll see you guys again next week. All right.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. Appreciate you.
Jason Pruitt.